What's up, bitches? I'm Christy Spirka with Reaching Better Alternatives, here to bring you a reading for the new moon in Taurus. I hope you're having a beautiful day, no matter where you are in the world. The new moon in Taurus is happening on May 16th, and it is the beginning of a new cycle. Keep in mind that there are cycles within cycles within cycles, and in this instance, I'm referring to the cycle of the moon. Each cycle begins with a new moon and ends with a new moon, and we are entering into the cycle of the new moon in Taurus, which is all focused on getting in alignment with what brings you pleasure in life, what you value in life, what creates security in your life. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so we are looking at all aspects of what Taurus and Venus represent: security, safety, pleasure, and values, loyalty, trust, determination, and tenacity. The energy of Taurus is that of growth, but it is that of the growth of a foundation. Aries is the energy of is initiation by fire, right? It is a spark that opens a seed, and the energy of Taurus is the push for the roots to grow, to create a solid foundation for the plant to grow upright, to eventually bloom. And so when we can take this analogy, this metaphor, and apply it to the energy in our life, we look at how we create resources in our life, how we create security in our life, attachment to our roots, what defines us, what we value, what keeps us grounded, but also what we enjoy, right? All very important aspects to think about when it comes to the energy of Taurus. And new moon is the time for intention setting, for planting seeds, so that when we encounter the full moon in 2 weeks, we can clear any blocks that have gotten in the way of allowing these seeds to grow and allowing these intentions to spring forth. So these next 2 weeks are really about creating space for and doing small intentional things to allow these goals to take hold. So what kind of goals can we be setting? Well, again, coming back to what new moon and Taurus represents, we're looking at what we value, what makes us happy, what makes us secure, maybe creating financial goals, right? Maybe doing some spring cleaning or planning for some remodeling in your home, right? That's always something to consider with the energy of Taurus, is your surroundings, right? It could be makeover energy for you. Do you want to step into the world as a fresh version of yourself? I pulled some archetypes to work with for this reading, and in Caroline Mace's archetype deck, she says that there are 12 core archetypes that each person exists in throughout their life. I haven't really explored this concept too much, but when I pulled one archetype, it just didn't feel fulfilling enough, so I decided to just pull 12 and see what happened, and it kind of came together to have 3 different groupings. So, as with all community readings, all energy is present at all times. It's just a matter of what we bring our awareness to in the moment. So, if you are here watching this reading, trust that there is a message here for you, but not all of it might be for you. Take what resonates and leave the rest. Allow my words to help you create your own understandings, and allow your own understandings to have more weight, more merit, more value than my words. If you don't have your own understandings, allow my words to wash over you and see what comes to being in the next several days. So first we have this interesting group. I'm going to start with the slave, the addict, the gossip, and the orphan child. All kind of like negative energies, right? That and I feel like the theme here, the slave, the addict, the gossip, and the orphan child, right? We are a slave to our addictions, to our gossip, and as a result of wounding that we experienced as a child where we felt abandoned, right? When we don't have our needs met as children by the adults in our lives, we find other ways to meet those needs. And so if in your childhood, you the adults in your life were not meeting your needs because of addiction, perhaps, you could have found other unhealthy addictions to meet those needs. The energy of the slave is surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. All negative archetypes have a high energy as well as a low energy, and all positive archetypes have a high energy as well as a low energy, right? So the high energy of the slave is surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust versus giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices, right? So the energy of the slave here, are you surrendering with complete trust or out of fear? Are you giving over your autonomy, or are you standing in your personal power and connection to divine energy? The energy of the addict is to help you recognize and confront addictive behavior versus compromising integrity and honesty and allowing an addictive pattern to have authority over your inner spirit, right? So when we give into our fear, we can also give into our addiction, and lots of things can be an addiction. Living in a state of fear can eventually become an addiction, right? An addiction is something that we allow to have hold over us, have power over us. And so maybe, living in a specific emotional state can become an addiction, right? When we allow ourselves to become powerless instead of empowering ourselves. So I feel like these 4 cards in particular are really calling out to look at where we are living in self-destructive patterns, right? With the energy of Venus, it's all about pleasure, right? But are we giving into pleasure for the wrong reasons? Are we trying to find to meet our unmet needs from childhood as adults in unhealthy ways? Are we surrendering into fear? It could be drug addiction. It could be alcohol addiction, right? It could be addiction to sex, right? There's all kinds of addictions, not just the emotional aspect that I'm speaking of. Are you allowing yourself to become a slave to those addictions? And then the final aspect of this is the gossip. Awakening consideration for the feeling of others and honoring trust, right? Sometimes being a gossip can mean being open to receiving all types of information, but keeping that confidential for that person. On the negative aspect of it is thriving on the power of passing on private or secret information and betraying those confidences. Are you using this information to further yourself ahead, or to empower yourself in a negative way, sharing information that's not yours to share, right? Some people, are really good at getting people to open up to them, but are you holding confidence, or are you betraying that trust? And again, the orphan child is independence based on learning to go it alone and then conquering the fear of survival, right? Learning to stand on your own 2 feet, learning how to meet those unmet needs that you had as a child, as an adult, in healthy ways, and figuring out how to stand strong. Feelings of the shadow aspect is feelings of abandonment that stifle maturation and seeking inappropriate surrogate families, right? Are you living in that state of perpetual emotional immaturity, relying on other people to meet those needs for you instead of figuring out how to grow and meet those needs for yourself? How can you stand in that energy? And so when we look at the addict, the slave, the gossip, and the orphan child, really looking at how can we, in astrology, the old way of looking at astrology is that each sign had negative or positive aspects. And what people are starting to realize in this modern day and age, it's not so much about positive and negative as so much as strength and weakness, or what comes easy and where we have challenges, where we are required to grow on a personal level. And so each of these archetypes have positive energies that come with ease, right? But they also have energies that require strength of character that require us to grow. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to be a gossip, right? If you can create a safe space for people to come share with, for them to share with you what they need, but can you do that in a way to help empower them, to help them find their needs to be met, right? The addict, sometimes addiction is a result of like wanting to feel accomplished, right? And so can you turn that addictive behavior into finding a way to accomplish something in your life? And the slave, can you connect and surrender to divinity instead of surrendering your power to people? And again, the orphan child, figuring out how to empower yourself, how to, through all of this, stand strong and firm on your own 2 feet, how to learn how to meet your needs on your own terms. So this was a really interesting grouping that kind of came forward to really consider in this energy of new moon. If this resonates for you, I would sit with these cards and think about how they're showing up in your life. And you can go back and replay this. The next set of cards, there was another child archetype. We had the magical child, the destroyer, the teacher, and the rescuer. So the magical child is seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things and the belief that everything is possible. The shadow attribute is pessimism, depression, and disbelief in miracles, believing that energy and action are not required for growth. Right? Can you live with whimsy, or do you think that you just, the whimsy can be good and bad. There's like a weird noise outside from something that's like attached to my house and it keeps driving me nuts. I'm trying not to be distracted by it. The energy of the destroyer, releasing what is potentially destructive, preparing for new life. Think of like a forest fire or a volcano, right? Clearing the way. Obviously, the destroyer is an intoxication with destructive power and destroying others' dreams or potential. Destroying for destruction's sake and not for the sake of clearing, right? The rescuer is providing strength and support to others in crisis. Acts out of love with no expectation of reward. Versus assuming that the rescued will reciprocate and keeping the rescued one needy. That's a really interesting energy when coming across the rescuer. Think of like Munchausen's by proxy. Like, are you keeping, which is a disease where the caregiver keeps the a person that's in their care sick so they can receive attention for it. It's a very negative aspect of the rescuer. And finally, we have the teacher, the ability to communicate knowledge, experience, wisdom, or skill versus manipulating or abusing students, teaching negative traits and destructive skills. So here, the theme was a little bit, it's a little more nuanced here, right? We have the teacher, the magical child, the rescuer, and the destroyer. When something is destroyed, we need to be rescued. If we take these a little bit more literally, and the teacher is here to teach the child, right? To help the child grow out of, whimsy and like supreme dependence on other people, but to instead bask in the beauty that is life. But is the teacher trying to keep the students stuck? Is the teacher trying to keep them dependent on them, right? Is the child overly dependent on the teacher? Are they looking at the teacher to be rescued instead of using the teacher as a vehicle to help empower themselves? And the destroyer, in that same way as the addict, are we like burning it all down for the sake of destruction because we can't face the reality, and we'd rather, it's like, if I can't have this, no one else will kind of energy? Or are we allowing those toxic traits to release? It's almost kind of like a graduation from that first set of archetypes, where once we find that person to help us lead the way, to step in from the orphan child to the the magical child. We have a teacher to help us lead that way. But again, are we still sitting in the shadow energy where we are trying to have our needs met by other people instead of meeting them ourselves, growing into developing the skills to meet those needs for ourselves? Or are we willing to just like walk away from everything that we've built and grown if it's not working out the way we want it to? Or can you sit in this energy and allow things to, like the leaves fall off every fall? When a fruit is ripe, it falls from the vine. Can you allow things to progress at a rate that is healthy, so that when the time is necessary to walk away, you can do so, knowing that you're doing so from a place of personal empowerment because it makes sense, so that you can take the next step in your life? Or you're just walking away because you no longer have the reserve, the dedication, the determination to see it through to the end, right? So this is another interesting set of archetypes. And so then from there, we have another graduation, from mystic, the god, shapeshifter, and dilettante. The dilettante, I feel like, is a graduation of the teacher and the student dynamic. It's delighting in the arts without having to be a professional, alerting you to the danger of becoming superficial in your pursuits, right? Like, basically just a purveyor of the arts for the sake of the arts. But the shadow attribute is pretension to much deeper knowledge than you actually possess, right? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Pretending to know more than you do versus just enjoying things and like being upfront about like, well, I'm just enjoying this. I'm not an expert in this, right? You're not like fully committed to it. You're just enjoying it, right? It's like going to the opera versus being an opera singer. Like the dilettante is the person who goes to the opera, as an example. I'm huge on metaphors. We have the mystic reveling in an intimate union with the divine versus a delusional rapport with the divine. And the fact that God then came out with this card, benevolence and compassion, and recognizing the eternal force within yourself and others, versus despotism? Because it's a despot, and cruelty and using power to control people, right? As well as the shapeshifter, skill at navigating through different levels of consciousness, ability to see the potential in everything. Here's the graduation of the magical child. The shadow attribute is projecting any image that serves your personal agenda in the moment. So this kind of energy of these four cards are really focusing on how we show up in the world, how we are interacting with the world at large. The shapeshifter, the god, mystic, and the dilettante, there's this energy, there's like a suggestion of, okay, so we've done all this work, we've empowered ourselves, we are now, from the energy of the slave, learning how to release, surrender into connection with the divine, having the utmost faith in that. But maybe we're not taking it seriously enough, and we're using the information we have to create control over people instead of empowering other people, right? So the shadow aspect of this is like, are we controlling other people from the knowledge that we've gained, or are we leading the way, leading by example through personal empowerment to show other people how to connect with divinity in that way? Can we meet people where they're at, and allow them and show them where there's room to grow, and teaching people how to connect with the divine energy within, right? We've learned to meet our needs, and now we can teach people how to do the same for themselves. Or are you using it to control people, keep them stuck, keep them dependent on you, right? So, of course, you can mix and match these archetypes in any way or shape or form. This is just kind of like what made sense for me as looking at like how this energy could exist for the energy of the new moon, what's becoming relevant, what we're being called to look at within ourselves, right? When we don't have security, we feel out of control. So then how do we create that control? Do we do it by needing to be taken care of, or do we need to be the caretaker that makes people depend on us? Can we heal ourselves to meet our needs? Which I just heard a phrase, we're not healing, we're softening, we're learning to allow in, right? We're shedding the bracing, the hardening, the shielding, right? We're releasing that and allowing ourselves to open and to release and to surrender in a healthy way, to allow things to move through us, but not surrender that we lose control and we disempower ourselves and we allow ourselves to live in a victim mentality of like, well, this is just how it is and this is how I'm going to live my life. Versus, well, this is how it is, and these are the steps I can take to influence it, to get myself where I need to be, to fine-tune my focus, and then to lead by example for others down this path. Creating security, determining what your personal values are in life that help you figure out what your path is in life, and then, work hard, play hard. Can you come into connection, into communion with the divine so that you follow your life's path and purpose, so that you can work in a way that creates a foundation and security, but you allow yourself to enjoy that work, and you can find ways to enjoy the finer things of life as a result of the work that you're doing for yourself, be it a caregiver or a poker dealer or a teacher, a barista at a cafe, a mother, right? Are you a homemaker? Are you a stay-at-home parent? Are you a corporate executive, right? Whatever it is that you do in life, are you in connection with your purpose? What you are here to do? Can you find pleasure in the simple day-to-day activities and how it is that you give back to society, right? And so that you can also enjoy the finer things in life and, take those trips and those vacations and go to those fancy restaurants or, buy that chocolate eclair cake at the grocery store for Mother's Day. I wonder where that came from, as my husband did for me, right? So when we can focus on what it is we value in life and who we are as people, and we can create that foundation within ourselves, and we can learn to meet our needs that were left unmet as children and do so in a healthy way, we create security, we create value, and we create pleasure for ourselves, right? I'm going to end with a couple other oracle cards. We have the Animal Elders Oracle Guidebook from the Ojibwa tribe. I love this deck. So this animal elder is just the medicine that we can use to help learn how to meet the needs of the unmet needs that from childhood. There we go. I was trying to figure out how to put that into a sentence. Elder Swan, recognize your beauty. I'll read from the book. When this elegant bird glides into your cards, you are asked to honor the beauty and grace that lives within you. Taurus, Venus, Venusian energy. Elder Swan journeys with you, recalling all the times in your life that you compared yourself to impossible societal standards. You are asked to connect with your sacred body and welcome the medicine of forgiveness for any critical or harsh words you have directed towards it. Elder Swan glides around you, creating circles of healing energy that clear out any negative beliefs that you have carried about yourself. Systems of oppression have caused you to see yourself through this lens. It is not your fault. Swan reminds you that your perceived flaws make you who you are. Everything you judge about yourself is a part of your unique and brilliant essence, and it's time to embrace all of the parts of you that you reject. In a world that is so focused on outer appearances, Elder Swan reminds you to see the poise you hold and the grace that flows from your heart. You are an incredibly beautiful soul, and Swan reminds you of the light that shines from within. It's time to step into the fullness of yourself and stand with dignity and trust. Your presence matters, and when you love yourself from the inside out, the whole world is touched by your vibration. I love that. So maybe your unmet need as a child was being recognized for the beautiful being that you are, or not being taught how to recognize it in yourself, right? Can you see yourself as being beautiful? Can you meet that need for yourself? Elder Swan speaks. Call upon me during the times when you look in the mirror and feel like you are not good enough. When shame rises about your physical body, allow me to touch your heart and spirit with grace. I shall remind you of your beauty and help to unwind the harmful narratives that swirl around your thoughts. Look to my majestic posture and long neck when you want to embrace your inner and outer beauty. I am a reflection of you, and it's time to welcome your whole self. Oh, jeez. That card came out flying. I'm using now the Tree of Life Oracle based on the Jewish Kabbalah. And the card that just flew out as Netcheck, Victory, Hope, Love, Art, with the symbol of Venus. Right? So we are looking at Hope, Love, and Art. So there's a lot. I love when it all comes together in this way. When it's all affirming one from the other. And I'm just going to read a couple. Victory. Activate this card. Guidance. First, we'll do guidance. We're often asked to share how we feel. Sometimes that can be frustrating. Yet Venus and Netcheck are asking you to be victorious over those feelings by working with them to get to the heart of them. Let them in. Let yourself feel, and if you need to walk in nature, be with the creatures of the earth, grab a paintbrush, or sing a song, then so much the better. Hold yourself in a state of grace. Learn to walk with your head held high. Be victorious over your feelings by seeing them for what they are, fleeting. When this card appears, you may be seeking answers about your love life. Venus suggests the real beauty is letting go of the outcome and remaining in a place of love regardless, a place of self-love from where all other loves spring. This is so in alignment. Perhaps an old love is returning now. Ask if a leopard can truly change its spots. This is a place of instinct rather than intuition. The animal in you will react. What happens after that is a choice. Activation. Create a piece of art. This needn't be a huge task. You can draw on your phone. You don't even need to draw. Sing, dance, paint, sculpt, or knit a woolly hat. By expressing your feelings, you can process them. So express yourself. And finally, a healing message from Spirit. Heal the past and fix tomorrow. Heal the past and fix tomorrow. Can you meditate with what unmet needs you had as a child that are still not met as an adult now? And how can you meet them as an adult now? And as we've listened in these other two decks, it starts with loving ourselves and honoring ourselves as the beautiful being that we are, and moving from that place. And from there, we can we live by example so that other people can find that for themselves. So I hope that you enjoyed this reading. I hope you find it helpful. I hope you sit in the energy of Venus and the new moon in Taurus, and you are able to not only determine what your personal values are, but also lean into the value you have for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friends. Namaste.